Hello, strangers. I'm Andy, and Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas from me, Mark, as well.
And Mark's wondering what the hell we're doing at this time in the morning. I thought I'd catch him a bit early so that he didn't start the day by saying, I've got to go in 15 minutes because of my granddad.
Firstly, I don't sound like that, and
That's
I've never
exactly
said
like.
15 minutes. 1 hour is what I normally say.
Anyway, I've got so much bollocks for you this morning. You haven't got a chance of getting away in an hour.
But how is it we're able to start a little early today?
I did my posting early with apologies, saying that the episode isn't available yet, but I wanted to get started on this.
All right, good. Well, that's encouraging that you think you've got something worthwhile to say.
Oh, you're going to enjoy it today. No doubt about that. I get to do accents.
Oh, really?
Stories are fantastic.
Excellent. Well,
It's not so much strange, but it's definitely up your alley.
Well, we need a good one compared to the last however many. The low point was definitely the sports store in Nashville. The pyramid, the 10th largest pyramid outside of Egypt. Yeah.
Or the 80th largest in the world.
Yeah, exactly. The 80th largest pyramid that's used as a sports store, I think, is probably more appropriate.
So anyway, what's been happening?
What has been happening? Elon Musk has been flexing his muscles.
What's he been up to?
Well, he kiboshed the spending bill going through the States. In the States, he kiboshed it.
I know nothing about it.
Oh, I see. Well, they've got, they always have this. They've got to increase the spending limit. And though Elon Musk is an unelected nothing, an advisor to Trump. I was going to say,
how the hell does he have the power to do anything?
It seems he has. And it looks like a number, I think it was 37 or maybe 17, I can't remember, of the Republicans actually demonstrated their disapproval of his involvement and voted with the Democrats.
But it didn't work.
I think they have got some bill through now. I don't know what the outcome was, but there's going to be a lot of battles between. Musk is, he doesn't listen to people.
He's just a prick. I mean, the problem is now he's making himself a target. So all those little would-be snipers out there have got a choice.
Oh, maybe.
I see that Germany has once again had a Christmas market.
Oh, that's happened before, has it?
Yes. Yes, it seems to be a popular thing. It's happened more than once.
Yeah, because it sounded absolutely dreadful. 200 people injured and 6 were killed.
And an alleged fucking doctor.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you reap what you sow.
Yeah, that's certainly madness for sure. Don't know what else is out there. There's not much good news out there, bearing in mind it's Christmas-ish, nearly Christmas.
It's very nearly Christmas.
In fact, today is...
You carry on. I've got to actually change the battery in my headphones.
What?
Yeah, it's beeping at me. I'm going to go deaf.
You need to put batteries in your headphones. I was going to say it was the longest night, shortest day as of yesterday. Did you hear that? Longest night, shortest day. 22nd of December, the December equinox.
I caught the December equinox. Everything before that was battery change.
Well, that's what it was today. Well, yesterday. It's the 22nd today.
The shortest day of the year.
Correct.
The longest night, depending on how you look at it.
Depending on the glass being half full or half empty.
Do you know what I did on the longest night of the year?
Slept.
No, I had to, while I was leaving work, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday,
Yes.
clearing the snow off the windscreen, lifted the wiper to scrape underneath. Fucking thing came off in my hand.
What, the windscreen wiper?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Just
What,
the
the whole
blade,
thing?
the blade and the holder.
All right, so
Just
not the actual
snapped
arm.
off. Not the arm, no. But
Oh
half
my
the
God.
arm.
How cold was it?
Yeah.
It
It's
wasn't
just these
-30.
Kias. I mean, again, my trunk is frozen shut for the winter. Remember last year I put my fingers through the fucking thing to try and open it. Well, now it's just I've given up. It's going to stay shut now for the winter.
That's not
And
very good, is it?
and the windscreen wipers just come off at a mere glance. It's a fucking piece of shit. Well, I mean, it's not. It's not built for lefty. That's for sure.
I wonder what is.
I need a Range Rover, apparently, or a Landy.
Why do you think they are?
Well, I think they're more rugged. Obviously, they're basic. The thing is, you can fix everything on a Land Rover with a hammer.
You'll be surprised. Spares are expensive for Land Rover, especially in Sweden. And you're talking about an old Defender.
Yeah,
But even a 20-year-old Defender is about $30,000, 25,000 quid, 300,000 Swedish. They're
that's what they
very
used to cost
expensive.
new.
I know. Yeah. I've actually got the tow bar now on my Suzuki, which I used yesterday. I've actually got a trailer on it.
What you need to do actually is come visit me, drive that up here, and just leave it.
Can you imagine what it would be like to do 1,000 kilometers in a Suzuki Jeep?
Pretty rattly.
Funnily enough, it does. You know, it cruises at 90, absolutely no problem.
Well, that's all you need.
It's got things like electric windows and electric adjustable mirrors. You know, it must have been quite sophisticated 30 years ago.
They were, because they were a very fashionable lady car.
Yeah, you're right.
I knew at least 2 hairdressers who had them.
No, I completely admit it. But now it's rugged. I've even got a little spade and a fire extinguisher strapped to the middle bit of the car.
You're like real life Minecraft.
Is that? I don't know what Minecraft is, but other than it being a game.
Oh.
So yeah.
But hang on, the windscreen wiper story.
Sorry, you haven't got it. So you went to Kia and you said, "Oi, this windscreen wiper."
No. I went to Biltema, and you can replace. They've got a nice little computer beside the selection.
Yes.
Put in your registration number, and it tells you want this one and this one.
Yeah.
16 and 29 inch, I think they were. So I thought, sweet, I'll replace them both. Put them in the car, drove home, opened the box on the kitchen table, and out came 4 separate fucking attachments.
Yep.
It's like, come on. It was rocket science.
Yeah.
It was, I had to scour the internet for videos and all sorts. It was an engineering degree to change a bloody wiper.
No, I completely agree with you. And that's why actually I'm quite lucky on the Landy. Bosch do one specifically for the Landy, number 96. And you'd literally just clip them on.
Well, when I finally figured it out, I did clip on the one that was missing, but now I cannot remove the other one.
Oh,
So
you have to wait till the summer.
I've got a brand new wiper blade sitting on the passenger seat for the next 4 months.
But is it the driver's side that you changed or the passenger side?
The passenger.
All right, so you've got the old blade and your passenger's going to enjoy the clean screen.
It is an amazing difference.
No, well, it is. You need to in Sweden, you need to change them at least once a year.
Oh, that's my first ever change.
Yeah, but that's why you can't see anything.
No, I always thought it was just my eyes. But in fact, it probably is just my eyes.
How are your eyes?
Oh, awful. Blind as a bat. And it's
you?
getting worse. I mean, it's literally getting worse. I walked into our fika room a couple of days ago, and someone sitting at a table waved at me, and I waved back, and I said to Amanda, "Who the fuck is that?"
Are your are your eyes getting worse?
They are getting really bad.
So what's wrong with you? What's wrong with your eyes? What are you,
Fucking old
long-sighted,
age.
short eyes? No, but my
Well,
eyesight's getting better.
This one, if I cover this one, you go blurry. This one, you're sharp as a tack. So I don't know.
All right.
They're both different.
No, because I reckon in 5 years I won't need glasses anymore.
What? Because you'll be completely blind.
No, because it's just improving. My eyesight's improving.
That's not the way nature works.
It is actually. Funny enough, if you're short-sighted, the older you get, your short-sightedness improves. If you're normal, you're probably a couple standard deviations away from normal. But anyway.
Well, the thing is, I was looking to set up an appointment to go and have a check-up and whatever. Do you know it costs 500 crowns here to have a bloody eye test?
Yes, but then it's free if you buy a pair of glasses. Or whatever.
In England, I remember it was 10 quid. And it probably still is.
No.
Because they want you to test your eyes.
No.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
I'm going to Google that. Eye test Specsavers.
I want our English listener to text us and let us know if it's more than a tenner now to get an eye test.
I would put it easily at £35.
Nah.
Yeah.
National Health Service, mate. Subsidised.
I don't think it's as subsidised as Sweden. UK eye test cost 35 quid.
Well, that's still a lot cheaper than here.
No, I've just made that up. Sorry.
Oh, so you're lying?
I'm not lying. I just made it up. Vision Express. Reject all cookies. This is really exciting. 30 quid. Oh, no. It's only £30. Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
What, 10 quid?
No, 30 quid. £30 it is.
10 quid. 2 for 1. Do they do both eyes for 30 quid?
That's each 30 quid each eye.
In Sweden, it probably is 500 crowns an eye.
I can tell you how much it costs to have a detached lens reinstalled in your eye.
Who the hell did that?
A friend of mine.
In England?
Yeah, woke up one morning and his eye was all bloodshot and he couldn't see out of it.
Did the police question his wife?
No. £8,000.
Oh, yeah, but of course he went private. He was Harley Street.
So he couldn't see out of his eye. He was completely blind in his eye. But because in England, technically, you're allowed to drive with one eye.
Yeah, but don't you have to have some kind of special certificate, some competence from
I don't
DVLA?
know. But anyway, whatever it was, on the National Health, losing the sight of one eye is not classed as an emergency. And so I think it was a year wait to have the operation. So you have a year, you have a choice. You can either wait a year to have it done on the National Health or you pay £8,000.
I had a mate called Keth.
As in the speakers?
Keth. Keth. Keth.
Not Keith.
No, his name was Keith, but he also lost an eye.
Where you get this absolute rubbish from?
Genius. Have you noticed my work title has changed on the screen?
Genius.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the recognition.
How can you can I change mine?
No, you can't. Anyway, you're not a genius, so you'll just have to be Mark.
I'll tell you what, Andy, if you're a genius, God help the world. Alex gave me an interesting statistic talking about supposed geniuses. I can't remember the numbers, but basically The top 4 richest men or people, they happen to be men, in America are now worth $1 trillion.
It's not even a real number.
10 years ago, the 4 richest men in America had 73 billion.
I mean, even that's...
And now it's a
ridiculous
trillion.
number. That's just a nonsense number.
Do you have a Twitter account?
I kind of do, but it's never been used.
I don't know whether we should all stop using it.
We stopped using it as a Strange Stuff podcast a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
No, but I'm thinking of cancelling my account. I don't post on it. And, you know, I don't look at X anymore. So I think I'll just delete my account.
Yes, do that. I mean, for being in the business of podcasting, I am terrible at social media because I hate it all. And it's basically our one-stop advertising shop, but I just ignore it, which is possibly why we are the most unsuccessful podcast on the planet. Because we've got 170 episodes and no fucker listens to them.
Is it really? It's 170 now, is it?
Yeah, I think this is our 170 or last week.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
But I mean, because we don't advertise, we don't reach that many people. So I'm sure there are a lot more podcasts out there with like 50 episodes who have far surpassed us because they know how to use the media marketing.
But the thing is that, do you want to use Twitter?
I absolutely don't because I hate them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I hate them. And to be fair, we started this as a project for ourselves. And, if anyone else likes to listen to it, that's great. But I'm quite happy to do it just for me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Having said that, if anyone is listening, thank you. Happy Christmas.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Have a great new year.
I think we've already said Happy Christmas, haven't we? Or have we?
Just at the beginning. It was a bit... Yeah.
And you're coming down, aren't you?
Yes. Next
on what day?
Friday.
That's the 27th.
And I think Hannah has actually made a provisional booking. Let me see. Hannah. I think 6:30.
On what?
At the Bishops for a bit of food.
For the 27th?
Yeah.
Right.
If you're up for it. Or if not, we'll still be there having a beer.
18:30 on the 27th?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I've got my hair cut at 5:00.
Oh, so you're spiffy
I'm
for
in
me.
town. Yeah, exactly. I'll look my best.
Well, you can come before because, I mean...
You'll be there.
I'll be there because I'm staying there. I've booked in.
I have you. You're staying at the Bishops. And how much do they take for Mellandag? 1,000 krona?
I'm not paying that.
No.
I'm paying special rates. We looked at Borlänge, and the Borlänge rate for the 27th was 2,500.
Really?
Yes. But I'm getting very special rate. Thank you very much, Bishop's Arms. 450.
Yeah, but you should do. You should do. But that is the family rate, isn't it?
No, that's Hannah's rate.
All right. Yeah, but you are. You're as good as Hannah, aren't you?
Yeah, but she needs to be there for that rate to come into effect. So.
Yeah.
And I will be having a lovely big English breakfast and a sauna.
They got a sauna. They don't have a spa, do they?
No, but they have put a sauna in the basement, apparently.
Have they? What, just a sauna?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never stayed there before. I will give you a full report after.
Excellent.
Anyway, to business, because we've been chattering away for 20 minutes.
Yes.
And we have sort of covered this topic before, but not fully. And I think we could probably cover it a couple more times. And it's piracy. Ah,
Oh, I like piracy, actually.
yeah.
Madagascar.
That was a cartoon for children.
No, but it wasn't the Indian Ocean rife for piracy because of the spice trade?
More the Caribbean.
Oh, was it?
But yeah, definitely Madagascar had played a part as well.
I get
But we're going to,
confused. Where's the Caribbean? West
well,
Indies. That's
yes,
the
the West
Caribbean, isn't it?
Indies.
Yeah, got it.
We're going to talk about three different pirates and their history.
One of them's called Black something. Black
Well,
Eye.
actually, one of them is called Black something, but it's not the one you think. We're going to start with a chap called Stede Bonnet.
No, he's boring. Stede Hat. No.
Stede Bonnet. He was also known as the Gentleman Pirate.
Oh, right up my Strasser then.
Wow. But why?
Was he a gentleman?
He was an unusual figure in the annals of pirate captains during the golden age of piracy in the early 18th century.
That's 1700s.
Yes.
Right.
He was born into a pretty wealthy plantation-owning family in Barbados.
Got it.
And his decision to turn to a life of piracy was quite surprising, considering his privileged background.
He was doing it for a laugh.
More or less.
It was like Fight Club with Brad Pitt, doing it for a laugh.
Except it wasn't in his head.
No, I don't get it.
Fight Club was all in his head, wasn't it?
What do you mean all in his head? It didn't happen.
No, Brad Pitt didn't literally exist. He was beating himself up. Did you ever watch Fight Club?
Yeah, but about 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was in his head. Brad Pitt was his second personality, his schizophrenic buddy.
I've got to rewatch that movie.
I've just spoiled it now. There's no point.
Well, does that come out in the movie? I can't believe I didn't remember that.
Of course it comes out in the movie.
But isn't he fighting that fellow Norton, the actor called Norton?
He fights a lot of people, but Brad Pitt, he's the one who does all the nasty fighting and beats the shit out of that very pretty young boy and ruins his face. But it's not actually Brad Pitt. It's the other fella. Can't remember the name of the other guy.
Oh, I see what you mean. So there was actual fighting going on, but it was... Oh,
but Brad Pitt didn't exist.
Right. Sort of. It was his, what do you call it, avatar? Not his avatar, his psychological avatar.
His split personality. It was his...
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. All right, okay. Yeah.
Schizo friend. Well, anyway, back to Stede Bonnet. His foray into piracy was spurred by personal discontent rather than economic necessity. And around 1717, and this is quite unusual for a pirate, he purchased a ship.
Really? How much a ship cost?
In those days, actually pretty expensive because they were handmade out of wood. So they wouldn't have come cheap.
It would be very interesting to know how much a ship cost in those days.
I would say north of £1,000 or 1,000 guineas.
In today's money?
Probably much the same as they cost now.
A couple of million.
Well, maybe not millions, but certainly approaching. But yeah, he purchased a ship. He called it the Revenge. And he outfitted it with cannons, turning it into a lovely little pirate vessel. Now, unlike many of his contemporaries, Bonnet lacked any seafaring experience, typical of a pirate captain. His venture into piracy was basically a product of a desire for excitement, adventure, and an escape from the constraints of his social standing.
Well, there you go. So he was doing it for a bit of a laugh.
He was a little knob, wasn't he? I mean, he was one of yours.
I'm surprised he even lasted long enough to get into the history books, because if he couldn't sail, he came from a gentleman background. How on earth is he going to last when he's up against what's the other fellow?
I say, my hearties, Tally here, let us go and relieve that chap over there of his possessions.
Who was the actor who played the pirate in Disney movies?
Which one?
Well, or, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, despite his lack of skills and his aptitude and his lack of competence, Bonnet achieved a degree of success as a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
His practical activities mainly centered around the American colonies.
Yeah.
Where he preyed on merchant ships along the Atlantic seaboard. The Revenge, under Bonnet's command, terrorized coastal waters, capturing and looting numerous vessels. And at Nassau, he struck up a friendship with the notorious pirate, Captain Blackbeard.
There we go, Blackbeard. That was the one.
And the two sailed together for a time before going their separate ways. What set Stede Bonnet apart from other pirates was his background. Dubbed the gentleman pirate, he was an educated man who had once held a respected position in colonial society. This made the contrast of his piratical career all the more intriguing and earned him a degree of notoriety among both contemporaries and historians.
But it's just amazing that he succeeded. He must have come up against some sort of naval vessel at some stage and he managed to escape.
Well,
must have been a bloody fast boat, that Revenge thing.
His foray into piracy was quite short-lived.
Ah.
And his inexperience as a captain soon caught up with him.
Ah.
In 1718, the Royal Navy...
1 year later.
Well, it might not have been even quite a year if he started in December.
Exactly. God, dear. Yeah, what happened to him?
The Royal Navy captured him off the coast of North Carolina.
And did what to him?
Well, his career came to an abrupt end and he found himself facing charges of piracy. During his trial, he maintained an air of defiance and did little to plead for mercy.
Hanged.
His claim, and it was a legitimate claim, of being forced into piracy due to an insufferable marriage. I mean, I'm all in with that one. That would drive me to piracy.
You've never had an insufferable marriage.
I can understand an insufferable woman, though. I've certainly been exposed to more than one of those. No offence.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, I'm just sort of no offencing our general women listeners who I know are not insufferable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this argument didn't sway the court and he was found guilty. And on December the 10th, 1718, Stede Bonnet met his end on the gallows in Charleston, South Carolina.
So he had a 1 year career. Was it worth it? He could have had a life of luxury and afternoon teas, iced tea. And
I'll
what
take
he
the
chose,
gallows.
a year of piracy excitement and then hanged by the neck until you are dead.
I think the expression was hanged by the neck until you be dead, dead, dead.
Is that what they said?
I think so, yeah. They used to say it three times.
In Carolina.
Just in case. His execution served as a stark reminder that piracy, regardless of one's background, was met with the harshest of consequences.
Absolutely.
And the aftermath of his piracy extended beyond his own demise. His crew faced a very similar fate, with many of them meeting their end on the gallows or suffering various forms of punishment, which we would call torture today.
So that was what's his face, Bennett, and he ran with what?
He ran with Captain Blackbeard,
Bonnet.
but there's more.
He's dead. How can there be more?
Well, his legacy. The capture and execution of the gentleman pirate was intended as a deterrent, sending a message to would-be pirates that their actions wouldn't be tolerated. And the tale of the gentleman pirate has endured through history as a curious episode in the larger narrative of piracy during the Golden Age. His unconventional path to piracy and his subsequent downfall serve as a reminder that the allure of the pirate's life, even for those outside their traditional pirate archetype, often leads to a tragic end. So he was held up as a poster boy as to why you should not be a pirate. In the broader context of piracy in the early 18th century, Bonnet's story adds a layer of complexity to the popular image of the swashbuckling rogue. His brief but impactful career highlights the diversity of individuals who turned to piracy and the varied motivations that drove them to defy societal norms. The legacy of Bonnet endures in pirate lore, contributing to the rich tapestry of stories from an era when the high seas were rife with adventure, danger, and the pursuit of ill-gotten gains.
I want a picture of his ship.
I think the Revenge is still around today.
What?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not holed up somewhere.
I'm still interested to know how much a ship would cost.
Maybe, I mean, the thing is, pirates, apart from Steed, didn't buy their ships. They were generally taken as
stolen from the Navy.
They were taken as prizes.
Nice part of the world to operate, though, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, well, the pirate garb was quite sparse. Usually consisted of an eye patch, a rag for your head, and a pair of cut-off pantaloons.
You didn't have to have a patch for your eye unless you'd lost one.
No, it was a mark of respect.
I wonder what proportion of pirates actually only had one eye.
Well, I think they gave you a choice between the eye and the leg.
No, because funnily enough, there are a lot of one-eyed, one-legged pirates, funnily enough.
Oh, that's a real pirate.
Evidenced by Pirates of the Caribbean. Did he? No, he had both eyes. He had one leg, but both eyes, as I recall, depending on which instalment it was in.
I've never actually watched the Pirates of the Caribbean, any of them.
What?
Yeah.
They're fun movies. Start at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Antigua, all of those places, they must have been quite exciting. Well, no, actually not. If you were rich, they were quite exciting. If you were anything other than rich, they must have been absolutely dreadful.
Oh, they had an underclass. The pirates operated in the underworld, and they had their own shanty towns in all of those places in their pirate strongholds.
Do you remember that Dustin Hoffman movie, Papillon?
Yes.
Wasn't he deported to somewhere like Antigua or something?
I don't remember it that well. I thought he was just in prison until he escaped.
Yeah, but he was in prison on an island, on a tropical island.
Are you sure it wasn't?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right.
Because originally he was in America and then he got sent somewhere. He didn't escape in the end of that movie.
Papillon, didn't he float off?
You're right. He jumped off the cliff into the sea and then floated off somewhere.
Had some kind of bladder, some inflatable.
He'd lost it by that stage, hadn't he?
Yeah, he'd lost his mind more than once.
Dementia. Anyway, Bonnet didn't get to lose his mind, did he? He lost his head.
In a manner of speaking. Moving on. We're going to our next pirate candidate, a chap
Blackbeard.
A chap called Edward England.
Why do you choose pirates that no one has ever heard of?
Because they're the interesting ones.
Edward England. I don't believe that's a real name. For a start, I baptised this child Edward England. I don't think so.
Absolutely right. It wasn't his real name.
Oh, good.
Now, the classic Jolly Roger pirate flag of skull and crossbones is actually only flown by a handful of pirates, one of whom was Edward England, who was an Irish-born pirate who served with legendary pirate captain Charles Vane.
Still never heard of him.
Oh, come on. He is a famous pirate.
No, he's not.
Once he assumed the captaincy of his own ship, the Pearl.
That is Pirates of the Caribbean.
England and his crew began looting captured ships. Unlike many of his fearsome contemporaries, England was known as one of the more humane pirate captains of the golden age of piracy.
He killed them quickly.
Funnily enough, yes. Born around 1685 in Ireland as Edward Seager, England likely changed his surname when he turned to piracy. And during the War of the Spanish Succession, England made his way to Jamaica, and there he served as a privateer. He was at some point captured by pirate captain Christopher Winter and forced to join his crew. And he went with Winter to the pirate base on Nassau in the Bahamas, where England took part in Henry Jennings' expedition for the sunken 1715 treasure fleet off the coast of Florida. Along with Jennings, he participated in the assault on the Spanish salvage camp at Palma de Ays in Florida, where £87,000 in gold and silver was stolen. That was quite a sum.
£87,000, 40,000 kilos, 4 tons of gold.
No, value, 87,000 sterling.
Oh, I see. I thought you were talking weight.
By March 1718, England had served, or was serving, as Charles Vane's quartermaster. He was captured along with Vane when Vane's sloop, the Lark, was captured by the Royal Navy. England and the rest of the crew were released to induce the other pirates of Nassau to accept the king's pardon.
They were offered a pardon, were they?
They were basically sent back to Nassau and spread the word, look, give it up, lads. The king will pardon everybody if you give it up now.
All right.
But unlike Vane and a few other prominent pirates, England refused the king's pardon. And after the arrival of Woodes Rogers, who was the British envoy to Nassau to set up the legitimate side of the island, he and his crew set sail for the coast of Africa. And by mid-1718, he was granted captaincy of his own ship. England and his crew took several ships, one of which was the Cardigan from Bristol, captained by a man named Skinner. And this man was recognised by England's crew because some of them had worked for him before and had never been paid.
Ah.
This is a man who is shitting his pantaloons.
Indeed.
According to Charles Johnson, the crew member said, "Ah, Captain Skinner, is it you? I am much in your debt, and now I shall pay you in your own coin." Skinner was grabbed by a group of pirates who tied him to the windlass and threw empty wine bottles at him.
The windlass is what's at the front of the ship, where they wind up the anchor.
I think the windlass is basically where the steering wheel is.
Is it?
I think so. But it could be the anchor.
The mechanism that pulls the anchor up.
The one you push around.
Exactly.
Heave ho!
And they threw empty bottles of wine at him. That's very aggressive.
You wouldn't throw a full one, would you? Next, because generally he had been a good master to his men, apart from the paying thing.
Apart from not having paid them, which is pretty important.
He was given a quick death and was simply shot in the head with a flintlock pistol. And as the crew of the Cardigan were now without a captain, England offered them a chance to join his crew. One of the crew, a certain Howell Davis, refused to become a pirate, saying he would rather die.
So he did.
It's a bit of a stupid thing to say to a pirate, honestly. But England refused to kill Davis and instead gave him command of the captured ship. And this began the start of Davis's own pirate career. So he was quite happy to become a pirate captain, just not a pirate.
Pirate. That's
Bit of a
very
snob.
sensible. Bit of a sensible fellow, this one.
And Davis would go on to be involved in the career of Bartholomew Roberts, as well as those of many other pirates. England and his crew eventually captured a larger brig named the Pearl, and taking the ship as their own, they renamed it the Royal James in the spring of 1719. In search of plunder in Africa, the crew seized and looted 10 ships, 2 of which they kept as prizes, granting them to captains Robert Lane and Richard Sample, who both left England to sail for the Caribbean. England then made John Taylor the captain of his next prize, the Victory. After looting 2 additional ships, England and the crew decided to make port in a small African town, but there conflict soon erupted. With an increasingly belligerent crew, the locals complained over the treatment of their women, and a fight soon broke out, resulting in the pirates burning the entire town and departing. During the plundering of a town in southern Africa, England saw a beautiful woman by the name of Amy Brionso, and he kidnapped her, because you do when you're a pirate.
Indeed.
Keeping the young woman in his captain's quarters. Eventually, thank you Stockholm, she fell in love with him, and years later, the couple married. Together they had a son named John Edward England, but in an effort to keep his family safe, England left them on the eastern coast of South Africa. Before departing, he asked his wife to instruct their son to name his own firstborn son John, something that became a family tradition. So he basically kidnapped Amy, kept her locked in the cabin until she fell in love with him, and then dumped her on the coast of southern Africa to have more children.
And then went back up to Jamaica or
And
the
then
Caribbean.
went on pirating. England had reached the Indian Ocean by 1720.
All right, so he carried on going.
Yeah. He'd already married and bred and moved on. And there in the Indian Ocean, he met up with fellow pirate Captain Oliver Levasseur, also known as La Bousse or the Buzzard. And together they launched a series of raids from the island of Saint Marie, just off the coast of Madagascar.
Thank you.
During this time, England and his crew captured a 34-gun Dutch ship, which he named Fancy, in honour of the English pirate Henry Every.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Were most pirates of a English European background?
Definitely European.
You would have thought that the pirates were from the local selection, attacking people coming from Europe on the trade routes.
No, bear in mind, pirates or privateers were used by the British monarchy
to attack the Spanish and the Dutch.
The Spanish, the French, the Dutch, and anyone else who had any kind of coin on their ships without provoking war.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, so he's in the Irish Ocean. Indian Ocean. Not the Irish Ocean.
Could have been the Irish Sea as well.
No, off the coast of Madagascar. He's having fun.
So he made the Fancy his new flagship, and he decided to attack an East Indiaman, the Cassandra, near the island of Comoros. Under the command of James McRae, the crew of the Cassandra put up a stubborn resistance, and a long and bloody battle ensued, with both ships eventually running aground. McRae and his surviving crew escaped and managed to hide out on the island for 10 days. However, injured, tired and hungry, McRae and his men went aboard England's consort, the Victory, and, hoping for mercy, they surrendered to the pirates. Being one of the more humane pirate captains, England refused to kill his captives. He was described, according to Captain Charles Johnson, as having had a great deal of good nature and did not want for courage. He was not avaricious and always averse to the ill usage of prisoners received.
So hang on a second, you've used a pirate accent, and that was a gentleman you're talking about.
Oh, once you become a pirate, you have to drop the plum in your mouth.
All right.
He would have been content. He would have been contented with, I'm going to do this without a pirate accent.
Yeah.
He would have been contented with moderate plunder and less mischievous pranks could his companions have been brought to the same temper. It's slipping back in. But he was generally overruled, and as he was engaged in that abominable society, He was obliged to be a partner in all their actions, vile as they may be.
Seemed a popular pastime, isn't it? You get attacked by pirates and then you become a pirate. It must have
Well,
been
it was
quite
the
a
only
good
way
life.
out. You either joined or you departed.
Died. Oh.
But
He's
England
had a
didn't
fair
believe...
old... Oh, sorry, carry on. Yeah, I was going to say he's had a fair old journey, because didn't he start in Nassau?
Yes.
That must have been a bit of a journey in those days. I suppose people did it all the time, but you're going around South Africa, that's the Cape of Good Hope, and then you're going up the the eastern coast of Africa. Yeah, it's a fair old journey. When was this?
1720 we're at now.
All right, so the early 1700s, yeah.
So England didn't believe in torturing captives unless they could not otherwise be persuaded, and he ordered Macrae's life spared. The pirates kept the Cassandra and gave the heavily damaged Fancy to Macrae, their opponent. England's quartermaster, a chap called John Taylor, who was now captain of the Victory, only agreed to sparing Macrae's life after England got him drunk.
So isn't the Victory one of Blackbeard's boats, or what's the Victory famous for?
The Victory is famous for being moored on the River Thames.
It's still there?
That's the HMS Victory. I don't know that it's the same boat.
Ah, no, it's not, because that was made in 1975.
No, the HMS Victory is a 3-masted brig.
Oh, it is it?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
It's
maybe it is
very
the same
famous.
boat.
Very famous.
Yeah.
It was a Royal Naval vessel at one time. Whether or not
right.
it's the same boat, I don't know.
All right. Well, can you have two boats with the same name?
You're not supposed to.
Anyway, did he carry on? Is he heading up the coast to Somalia?
Well, the situation eventually escalated when England captured a small English ship near Cochin, and the drunk captain reported a false rumour that Macrae was preparing a fleet to chase the pirates. Enraged, the pirates, and in particular Taylor, who had wanted to kill Macrae, decided to organise a vote in cahoots with Captain Laseur. Taylor had England removed from command. Jasper Seater, a member of the Fancy crew, was appointed the new captain. He was marooned in Mauritius.
Oh, not bad place to be.
England and 3 companions were put ashore without adequate provisions and forced to scavenge. After about 4 months, the men had built a small boat and they sailed to the pirate haven of St. Augustine's Bay in Madagascar. So they were quite resourceful.
Indeed. Mauritius isn't a bad place. You know, I've been there.
As a pirate?
Not as a pilot, no. Yeah, they did well, because even that, if they built a boat in how many weeks?
4 months.
4 months. And they made it from Mauritius to Madagascar.
Yep.
Well done.
So anyway, the Buzzard and Taylor would soon go on to raid one of the wealthiest Portuguese great galleon ships, which was loaded with treasures returning from Lisbon. In contrast, England was forced to survive on the charity of other pirates. He died sometime in the winter of 2021, not the year 2021, between 1720 and 1721.
I was going to say that was a pretty good
That was a good old innings.
So hang on a second. So this bloke only did a couple of years worth of pirating. Life expectancy wasn't great, was it?
Especially in the tropics, because he died of a suspected tropical disease. His son John eventually honoured his father's
from Amy in South Africa.
Eventually honoured his father's wish and named his son John as well, a tradition that continued among the descendants of the gentleman pirate captain.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be tempted. 2-3 years of excitement and then death.
Well, there's one more chap we're going to talk about, and this one might tempt you to a life on the ocean wave.
Blackbeard.
Black Bellamy.
Don't know him.
He was one of the most successful captains of the Golden Age. Black Sam Bellamy was known as the Prince of Pirates, and he gained a reputation also for mercy and generosity to those that he and his crew captured during their raids. There seemed to be a lot of mercy amongst these scoundrels.
I can imagine there was a lot of brutality as well.
Oh, yeah. He'd first sailed under Captain Benjamin Hornigold, and he served alongside the soon-to-become famous Edward Teach, or Blackbeard, as you know him.
All right, I know him.
When Hornigold was deposed by his own crew, Bellamy assumed command and went on to capture numerous ships during his relatively short career.
Ah.
But it would be his capture of the trade ship Wider Galley that would make Bellamy one of the wealthiest pirates ever to have sailed the seven seas.
When you think about it, if you think of Jane Austen novels,
Mm.
these naval people, they go off and on one trip, they could make enough money to buy themselves a country estate
Yeah.
and live happily forevermore. So you can imagine the amount of money that these pirates must have. I suppose they're selling the goods in wherever, Trinidad, as opposed to London. So there's not the same value, but they must have been big money.
The amount of gold,
big
and
money.
silver.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nicking cars, is it? It's nicking countries.
Yeah. Although the 300-ton English slave ship was a worthy adversary armed with 18 cannons, it was captured by Bellamy without any bloodshed, and his crew seized the ship's cargo, which included an immense treasure trove of gold, silver, and other precious trade goods. He wouldn't enjoy the spoils of his piracy for long, though, when in April 1717, the Wider would eventually be caught up in a storm off Cape Cod.
And
most of the crew, along with Captain Bellamy, were lost at sea. His legacy has endured, and there has been renewed interest in Black Sam with the discovery of his flagship, the Wider Galley, which would soon become the first pirate shipwreck ever discovered in North America.
it's this short life expectancy. I wonder what the life expectancy of a normal sailor was. That was probably quite short as well if you're doing these sort of long trips.
Well, they frequently replenished with the press gang, didn't they? Because they forever needed a supply. So they used to roam the taverns of whatever port they were in and just knock people over the head and recruit them.
That's right. And then recruit them and they wake up in on-board ship.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. So it's fair old distances. I wonder how long the trip took. Must have been a couple of months from sort of South Africa to the Caribbean. Maybe not.
I mean,
Yeah,
it depends on the ship, I suppose. Some were faster than others.
how long did it take for the Titanic to go from London to New York?
It didn't. It never made it.
All right, the equivalent. The equivalent. A couple of weeks, do you reckon?
Oh, I would say 3 weeks, maybe. But that's a pure conjecture. I have no idea.
So I reckon in the olden days, were the ships half as fast? No, they weren't.
You were
half
lucky
as
to
fast.
get
a quarter.
You would get maybe
5
10
knots.
to 15 knots with a wind behind you.
No, I doubt it.
Oh, they had a lot of acreage on the sails. If you had a 3-masted galleon, you could really move.
Could you?
Or if you had a smaller brig, you were probably quite speedy.
How can you talk with such confidence when you obviously know absolutely nothing? How do you know what a brig is?
I was in the Sea Cadets, and it's called a sloop, not a scoop. That's an ice cream. You ignoramus.
You were actually, weren't you? You were in the Sea Cadets.
I have been sailing.
Did they give you history lessons on types of boats and things? Can you do a decent knot?
We did do lots of knots.
I bet you did.
We did. We did the half hitch, the clove hitch, the sheep shag. Was that one of them?
I don't know. Oh, dear. Why didn't you join the Navy? They wouldn't have you.
It was actually, I did intend to join the Navy as a communications officer.
What gave you that crazy idea that they would let you in as an officer?
Well, it's down to the qualifications you achieve. You can join directly as an officer if you're
Even
qualified.
from East London?
Yes.
Even from East London?
Yes. I mean, it would be like a sub-lieutenant or something ridiculous.
But so why didn't you, though? Because you must have been quite keen on it if you actually joined the Sea Cadets. Did you discover
cocaine
roller
and pussy?
skating?
It was...
Not much of that on board.
It destroyed my career aspirations in the best possible way.
You could have had a respectable life.
No, I would have hated myself in the end because I don't want to join any man's army.
No, good point.
So it was
Navy.
It was where a drugs intervention actually did a very good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
A bit of background on Sam, Captain Sam,
the man.
Samuel Bellamy. Born in 1889, he was the youngest of 6 known children of Stephen.
Hang on. We've jumped forward. He can't have been born in 1889.
Sorry, 1789.
God, dear.
It's my mince pies.
Yeah.
In the parish of Hittersley in Devonshire.
All right.
A kingdom of England. His mother died soon after and was buried on February 23rd, 1689. Not 17 or 18. 3 weeks before Sam's baptism.
I was going to say, we've been jumping around here. I can't believe...
I know.
Oh.
I know. My mind is going. The young Sam became a sailor from an early age, and in his late teens, he joined the Royal Navy and he fought in several sea battles. Little is known of his family life, and although some historians have speculated that he may have had a wife and child, there is little definitive proof to support this. Going back to sea battles, actually, you realise if I had joined the Navy on completion of my studies, I would have been sent to the Falklands.
You would have gone to Argentina.
Yeah, well, Falklands.
Yeah, you would have done. You could have been on, which was the ship that was sunk? The Belfast? No. What was the big one that sank? Oh, no, it was the Belgrano. That was the Argentinian
ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in 1715, Bellamy travelled to Cape Cod, allegedly to seek out some of his relatives there, and according to local legend, it's believed he embarked upon an affair with a local beauty by the name of Goody Hallett.
No.
I love the name. I love the name Goody. Every time I hear the name Goody, I just see a witch.
No, I just don't see it. I baptised this child Goody Hallett. No, I don't see it.
Some historians have given her first name as Maria, but there is no evidence that she went by this name. And she was known as the Witch of Wellfleet.
Oh, she was. All right.
Much of her life remains subject to debate and little is known about her. Her age has been given in range from a young lady of 16 and 25 to that of a very old woman, 30.
Yeah.
Which would have been very old in those days.
You're right.
Some accounts indicate that her parents didn't approve of him, while other circumstantial evidence seems to infer that she was already married and that Bellamy's intent was not to marry her, but to seek his fortune and take her away.
Which he did.
For whatever reason, he left the Cape Cod in early 1716 with a group of men to seek out the vast treasures from the Spanish wreck of the 1715 treasure fleet out on the Florida coast. After he left the Cape, Hallett found herself pregnant by Bellamy, and it is said that she gave birth to a son and hid the child in a barn for warmth while she foraged for food. When she returned, She had found that the child had choked to death on straw. Differing legends state it was the barn of the notable Knowles family, while others claim it was owned by Justice Joseph Doan, who had banished her. Most sources agree that she was arrested for the child's murder and imprisoned in the old jail of Barnstable, Massachusetts, which was the oldest wooden jailhouse in the United States and was said to be haunted by her ghost. Her sentence was relatively short, but she was exiled from the town and went to Eastham, where she waited for Bellamy's return. Bellamy, meanwhile, was soon joined by wealthy jeweller Palgraves Williams, the son of the Rhode Island Attorney General John Williams, who funded the expedition. Their treasure hunting met with very little success, and they soon turned to piracy, joining the crew of pirate Captain Benjamin Hornigold, who was in command of the Marianne, a converted 10-gun sloop, along with his first mate, Edward Teach, Blackbeard. By the summer of 1716, Hornigold's crew became restless with his unwillingness to attack English shipping, refusing to steal from vessels of his own country. His reason for this was apparently to maintain a legal defence that he was a privateer operating against England's enemies during the War of the Spanish Succession. By a majority vote, he was deposed as captain of the Marianne and left the vessel with his loyal crew, including Teach. The remaining 90-man crew then elected Bellamy as their new captain, and he ordered his crew to capture a second ship, the Sultana, which was made into a galley, and with the approval of his crew, Bellamy made it his flagship. A third ship, the Pearl, was allowed to go free with any sailor aboard who refused to take up piracy. Richard Nolan was made quartermaster, and his friend Palsgrave Williams was appointed commander of the Marianne, and together they sailed for a time alongside the French pirate Olivier Levasseur, who left early in 1717 to try his luck in Brazil by raiding the South American coast in his ship Postilion. Captain Sam Bellamy then became known to his crew as Black Bellamy, primarily because he grew his dark hair long and tied it back with a black satin bow, preferring this over the more fashionable powdered wig that was worn by his fellow pirate captains.
What?
Yes, they wore powdered wigs.
Not the captain of a pirate ship.
Yes, you had to look
your
your
best. They wore a bandana and an eye patch.
Not all of them, clearly. According to contemporary accounts, he was a distinctive, tall and strong figure, well-mannered, with a tidy appearance. He enjoyed wearing expensive clothing, especially black coats, and he wore a sash in which he kept his favourite weapons, 4 dueling pistols.
That's a weight to carry around.
He had them everywhere. He had stash guns. He was described as a dashing figure in his long, deep-cuffed velvet coat, knee breeches, silk stockings, and silver-buckled shoes. He kept his sword slung on his left hip and the 4 pistols on his sash. He opted for a more democratic leadership style, and this endeared his crew towards him, who often referred to him as the Robin Hood of the seas, and themselves as Robin Hood's men.
Yep.
As I said, he was known for his mercy and his generosity towards those he captured, and this reputation earned him another nickname, the Prince of Pirates. He was considered a very adept tactician and usually had at least 2 ships under his control. Using the more powerful vessel with many cannons as his flagship, he gained a good balance with the second lighter and faster ship for coordinated attacks, which enabled them to capture ships easily without harming them. In January 1717, Bellamy and Williams put into St. Croix to repair and resupply when they were hailed from ashore by a group of sailors. These men were the remainder of John Martel's crew, the the pirate captain who had run his flagship aground in an attempt to flee from the warship HMS Scarborough, which was captained by Francis Hume. Martel had ordered his ship burned and managed to escape with several of his crew in a captured sloop. The remainder of the crew was stranded on the island as Hume looted and hauled away the remaining ships. The pirates soon joined Bellamy's crew, who sailed away before HMS Scarborough could return. Bellamy was soon to undertake the greatest treasure haul during the spring of 1717, when his crew spotted the wider galley sailing through the windward passage between Hispaniola and Cuba. The English slave ship, which had been built in 1715 and was considered a revolutionary vessel, 102 foot long, weighing 300 tons, she could reach speeds of up to 13 knots and was armed with 18 cannons, making it a formidable adversary. The Wider was on its maiden voyage, much like the Titanic, and had just completed the second leg of the Atlantic slave trade and was loaded with a fortune in gold, ivory, indigo, Jesuits' bark, and other precious trade goods from the sale of 312 slaves. Bellamy set off in pursuit of the Wider, chasing it for 3 days before getting close enough to fire. One of his crew members, Thomas Barker, would later record, "They spread a large black flag with a death's head and bones across and gave chase to Captain Prince under the same colours." After a single shot, the Wider surrendered.
What?
Yep, with its captain, Lawrence Prince, ordering its flag to be lowered. Prince had been a former buccaneer under Sir Henry Morgan. With his reputation for mercy and generosity, he rewarded Prince's surrender without a struggle by trading the Sultana for the Wider. Bellamy converted the galley into a warship, removing the captain's quarters, slave barricades, and any other features that made her top heavy, and he upgraded the arsenal to 28 guns. He then turned his new flagship northwards along the eastern coast of the Carolinas and on to New England, looting and capturing several vessels on the way.
And when did he die?
Oh, he's still pirating at the moment. In what was the first and standard historical text on pirates, Captain Charles Johnson relates the story of the Wider overtaking a sloop commanded by Captain Beer in his work A General History of the Robberies and Murders of the Most Notorious Pirates. Bellamy wished to let the captain keep his vessel, but his crew had voted instead to burn it. And when the captain of the merchant ship refused an invitation to join his crew, Bellamy is attributed with a now famous speech. "I'm sorry, they won't let you have your sloop again, for I scorn to do anyone a mischief when it is not to my advantage. Damn the sloop, we've got a sinker, and she might be of use to you, though you are a sneaking puppy, and so are all those who will submit to be governed by laws which rich men have made for their own security. For the cowardly whelps have not the courage otherwise to defend what they get by knavery, but damn ye altogether, damn them for a pack of crafty rascals, and you who served them for a parcel of hen-hearted numbskulls. They vilify us, the scoundrels do, when there is only this difference. They rob the poor under the cover of the law, forsooth, and we plunder the rich under the protection of our own courage. Had you not better make them one of us than sneak after these villains for employment?"
And so what did he do? He put them in the ship and then sank it.
Well, Captain Beer replied that his conscience wouldn't let him break the laws of God and man, and Bellamy continued, "You are a devilish conscience rascal. I am a free prince, and I have as much authority to make war on the whole world as he who has 100 sail of ships at sea and an army of 100,000 men in the field. And this my conscience tells me. But there's no arguing with such snivelling puppies who allow superiors to kick them about the deck at pleasure. Johnson attributed this speech to Captain Bellamy without actually mentioning Samuel Bellamy specifically.
So it might be made up.
Maybe. But 2 months after the taking of the Wider, and as they approached Cape Cod, Bellamy and Williams parted ways. The commander of the Marianne told Bellamy he wished to visit his family in Rhode Island, and the two agreed to meet up again near Maine. Bellamy went on to capture several other smaller vessels around the area, including the Anne Galley, to which captaincy was given to his Irish-born quartermaster Richard Nolan. Wider became caught up in a storm which heavily damaged it, breaking one of the masts and requiring patch-ups and repairs until they reached the waters near Nantucket Sound, where they were able to effect greater repairs at either Rhode Island or Block Island. At some point, Bellamy added a further 30-plus cannons below decks, possibly as ballast, that would ensure its stability. Accounts differ as to the destination of the Wider during her last days at sea, with some evidence indicating she was heading for what is now Princetown Harbour at the tip of Cape Cod. Others believe that the Wider's route was a navigational error. It is unknown if Bellamy ever had any intention of meeting with his lover Maria Hallett, but she would never see him again. On April 26, 1717, Bellamy's pirates captured the ship Mary Ann, which contained a hold full of Madeira wine. The captain of the Mary Ann had refused Bellamy's request to pilot them up the coast, and so was arrested on his orders, along with 5 of his crew, who were brought over to the Wider, leaving just 3 of the original crew aboard the Mary Ann. Bellamy then sent 7 of his own men aboard, one of whom was the carpenter Thomas South, who had been forced by Bellamy and his crew to make the necessary repairs. Not wishing to join the pirates, South was offered his release by Bellamy once the work was completed. But surviving members of the crew testified in court how they overruled Bellamy's decision and forced South to stay despite his protestations. South would later testify in his own defence that he agreed to join the other 6 pirates going aboard the Mary Ann in the hopes of escaping his predicament by jumping overboard and swimming ashore as they approached the Cape. So at around 7 that evening, as the ship approached the coastline, the winds completely vanished and it encountered a massive, thick grey fog bank rolling across the water, signalling bad weather ahead and making visibility virtually nil. The 4 ships in Bellamy's fleet, the Wider Galley, Mary Ann, Anne Galley and the Fisher, lost sight of each other. The Anne Galley, commanded by Richard Noland, and Fisher, moved out to sea and eventually made it to Damariscove Island despite heavy damage. At midnight on April 26, 1717, the Wider was swept up in a violent northeaster off Cape Cod and was driven onto the sandbar shoals in 16 feet of water, some 500 feet from the coast of what is now Wellfleet, Massachusetts. At midnight, the mast snapped and the heavily loaded ship sank into 30 feet of water, where she violently capsized and went down.
Along with Bellamy.
Bellamy and all but 2 of the Widem's 145-man crew were lost at sea, along with 4.1 tons of silver, gold dust and jewellery, which had been divided equally into 180 50-pound sacks and then stored in between the ship's decks. By the morning, hundreds of Cape Cod's notorious wreckers, known as mood cussers, were already plundering the cargo. Upon hearing of the shipwreck, Governor Samuel Shute dispatched Captain Cyprian Southhack, a local cartographer and salvager, to recover money, bullion, treasure, goods and merchandises taken out of said ship. I think he covered everything.
Yep.
On the 3rd of May, Southwark reached the site and found that part of the ship was still visible breaching the water's surface, but that most of the wreckage had been scattered along more than 4 miles of shoreline. From a map of the wreck site, made by Southwark, it is known that 102 bodies were recorded as having washed ashore over the 4-mile length of coast and were buried by the town coroner, leaving some 41 bodies unaccounted for. It's unknown if Bellamy was amongst those who were counted, or if his body remained with the sunken wreck of the Wider. As per their agreement, Palsgrave Williams waited for Bellamy at the rendezvous. When he failed to show, Williams realised what had happened and he sailed south to Nassau in the Marianne. He would go on to join the crew of the French pirate Oliver Levasseur, becoming his quartermaster. Only 2 others of the Wider crew survived. 16-year-old Mosquito Indian John Julian, the ship's pilot.
How can you have a 16-year-old pilot?
I mean, that's pretty young to be a ship's pilot.
I would say so.
And Welsh carpenter Thomas Davis had made it to the beach alive. That same night, the Marianne was also wrecked several miles south at Pocket Island, and all of Bellamy's crew aboard that ship made it back to shore, leaving 7 more survivors. All 9 survivors of the 2 ships were quickly captured by Justice Joseph Doane and his posse and taken to Barnstable Jail. On October 18, 1717, 6 of these men, Simon van der Vost of New York, John Brown of Jamaica, Peter Cornelius Hoof of Sweden, John Shawn of France, and Thomas Baker and Hendrik Quintor of the Netherlands, were tried in Boston for piracy and robbery, found guilty and sentenced to death. The pardon issued by King George to all pirates in the previous month of September had arrived in Boston 3 weeks too late. The carpenters Thomas Davis and Thomas South, who'd been conscripted by Bellamy and forced to choose between a life of piracy or death, were tried separately. The court believed their testimony that they had been forced into piracy, and they were acquitted of all charges and spared the gallows. John Julian the Indian was not tried, but instead sold into slavery to the great-grandfather of John Quincy Adams, no less.
What, the music man who died recently?
John Quincy Adams, wasn't he actually a president of the United States?
Could have been. Yeah.
I might be well wrong on that one, so don't at me. He was later hanged some 16 years later. He reportedly made numerous attempts to escape and once killed a bounty hunter sent to apprehend him. He was executed in March of 1733. On November the 15th, 1717, the 6 condemned men were accompanied by the famous Puritan minister Cotton Mather as they were rowed across Boston Harbour to Charleston. All 6 had confessed to their crimes and repented, but they were all still hanged for piracy.
So what amazes me is maybe 1717 was a particularly bad year, but none of them lasted more than a year or so.
It was a very short career. Just to finish this up, in February of 2018, it was believed that the possible remains of Samuel Bellamy had been found near the wreck of his ship. The body was located next to a pistol identified as being belonged to Bellamy, and DNA tests were conducted against that of a living relative for confirmation. By May of 2018, it was reported that the remains were those of Eastern European descent and not those of Black Bellamy, whose body remains claimed by the sea. Clifford eventually founded the Wider Pirate Museum, located on Macmillan Wharf in Provincetown, Massachusetts, which is dedicated to Sam Bellamy and the Wider, and houses many of the artefacts that were salvaged from the wreck, such as cannons that were found stuffed with gold, precious stones, and artefacts.
Interesting, really.
brings us to the end of this episode of Piracy.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Real pirates.
Bellamy.
I think that would have been a life for me, actually. Bit of piracy.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. Yeah, none of your 9 to 5 nonsense. Oh,
What's going on?
I'm being dinged.
Who would be dinging you on a Sunday morning at 11 minutes past 11? Maybe it'd be interesting to go to some of these places. I've been to Mauritius, I've never been to South Africa, and I've never been to the Caribbean or the West Indies.
I would like to do the pirate trail, but I don't think it's going to happen somehow.
You never know. It's not too late to become a pirate.
It's a pirate's life for me.
You need a boat, though.
That brings us to the end of this week's Christmas episode, because this is our Christmas episode.
What? Sorry, what had it to do with Christmas? Where's the Christmas element of this story?
I couldn't really find anything sufficiently Christmassy.
A nice Santa story would have been good.
Nothing strange about Santa. Some fat old dude who climbs down children's chimneys and leaves them presents. That happens all too often these days.
You're right. Hey, well done, Andy. That was entertaining. I like a bit of a pirate story, I have to say.
Well, I'm glad you're happy.
Were these, would you reckon these are 3 of the top 10 famous pirates?
Oh, we'll cover some more in future episode sometime. You can judge for yourself. I think they're an interesting topic.
Yeah. Black Bellamy.
But thanks for listening, everyone.
Was he a black man? Sorry. Was he a black man? No, he wasn't.
No, he was called Black Bellamy because of his hair.
Oh, that's right, of course.
Oh, pay attention. Class. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have yourselves a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we are taking a break next week because I will not be here.
Yep.
And neither will you. So we'll see you in the new year. Have a good one.
Yes, very good.
Goodbye for now. And don't forget, if you're going to be a pirate, be merciful.
You might get to last 9 months.
Yes.
As opposed to only 6.
Indeed.
Yep. Very good. Yep. Merry Christmas, everyone.